Okay, as soon as I get the confirmation that the YouTube connection is good, then we can kick things off. And I see it, we're good. So welcome everybody to the July 2022 Rider Oversight Committee. I am Stefan Wunsch. I'm the co-chair along with Wig Zamor, who is still getting his audio online. In a moment, I'll ask everyone to go around the virtual Zoom Brady Bunch squares and introduce everybody. We expect to have a little bit of a light turnout, and as Craig was saying, he's got to leave because it's July, it's vacation season. But thank you everybody who's here now for joining us. I'll just pick up the next person. Hayden, could you just introduce yourself and say hello?
Hello, my name is Hank Kim, and I am a transportation planner at CTPS. Joining today's meeting on behalf of the Boston Region MPO and the MBTA.
Thank you very much. Craig, do you want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Sure. Craig Laskowski, public member. I live in Milton.
Thank you. And Craig is also the co-chair with me of the subcommittee on marketing, operations, and communications. We have two subcommittees, one that I just mentioned and the other that Len co-chairs that's on finance and capital. Those two subcommittees are where we do the majority of all of our work. And Karen, do you want to say hi and make sure we can hear you okay?
Yeah, Karen Wepsick. I live in Jamaica Plain, and I've taken the tea, seems like forever.
Excellent. We got you loud and clear. Thank you, Karen. And Wig, it looks like your audio is connected. Do you want to introduce yourself and make sure we can hear you okay? If not, Wig, then you can click on the information in the upper left and you can get the dial-in number to call in by phone if you have to. Oh, maybe you already did. Hang on, let me check and see. Let me see if this might be Wig. I didn't notice. Wig, is that your phone number ends with 5630? I'm not getting anything out of that person, but we'll come back to you, Wig. I'm allowing you to talk. So the person whose phone number ends in 5630, if that's Wig, let us know if you can hear us and we'll try to let you know if we can hear you. Otherwise, just say hi, the person on that other person on the phone. And Len, want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Leonard Diggins, and I am the co-chair of the Capital Investment Finance Committee, and I live in Arlington. Pretty much ride the red line twice a day to MGH from my wife. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I just flipped to the correct agenda. I had the subcommittee agenda up on the screen. So now we're looking at the correct thing. Everyone, please welcome our special guest, Sean Reed, the 3rd Essex District, Senator Brendan Crichton's Director of Communications. I'm really thrilled to have you join us, Sean, because as most of us on the committee probably know, Senator Crichton is now the Senate co-chair of the Joint Transportation Committee in the state legislature. And as such, we want to make sure that before we invite Senator Crichton, sometime after vacation season, maybe September, October, something like that, we want to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row and we're making good use of his time. And in particular, now coming up on I think we're in the middle of the last week of the legislative before the break. We definitely didn't want to tie up Senator Crichton now with so much going on. But Sean, thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to say a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing and where your role is in the senator's office, and then we'll start asking some questions and have a discussion.
Yeah, I'm certainly I'm happy to, and I'm sure the senator is very thankful they didn't invite him this week and instead me. But on behalf of the senator, I'm very thankful to be here, And thank you all for your great work. Let me just start by saying that, like any issue that's critically important, the decision makers need to hear from the people who the decisions affect most, right? And that's exactly what you guys do. You elevate the collective voice, and you provide a platform so that everyone kind of has, a say in the process, one way or another. So it's much appreciated, and from a legislative perspective, it's really much appreciated. So I just want to start by saying thank you. Just a little bit about the senator. I just wanted to say, the third Essex is Lynn, Linfield, Nahant, Swampscott, Saugus, and Marblehead. I got them all. I'm always going to miss one and then get yelled at. So, yes, he became the transportation chair a few months back. One of his top priorities is modernizing the T and making it a 21st century transportation system that works for everyone. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges going on right now, and there's a lot of work to be done. But it's really a passion of his and a top priority. And he's looking forward to working with the legislature, the executive branch, this governor, the next governor, and advocates like yourselves to make this a modern system that works. So he's no stranger. He's to transportation. He worked for Senate Chair Tom McGee when he was the transportation chair. When he was a city councilor, he won some awards for his work in transportation. He continued that work when he was a state rep, and now he brings that to the state senate. So that's kind of the senator's background in transportation, and it truly is one of his top priorities. I'm not just saying that because I'm here. It's a lot of our work. We deal with transportation, some better than others, but it's great work. A little bit of myself. I am the communications director, but I think I'm a district director, and I don't even know my title anymore. It's constantly evolving. So, but I work a lot on the district side, a lot on transportation. I'm also a lifelong T rider. I remember as a kid, we didn't always have a car. We'd ride into Boston. We ride to the mall. I take the T regularly, the commuter rail and the blue line pretty much, most days when I go into Boston. So I'm well aware of the issues personally. And I should have mentioned I'm also a Lynn guy myself. So that's a little bit about us, my background. I'm always happy to chat. I'm always happy to come to a meeting. I'm always happy to answer questions. I'll drop my info, after this meeting, just so that you guys you have my contact information. I'm just a text away. So I'm happy to, have any discussion we want now too. I just got to run a little early because it's my wife's birthday, but other than that, we're good to go. I don't think I can hear you, Stefan.
I was just saying, what's your drop dead time to get out of here? We'll make sure that you're not in the doghouse.
Probably like 6:15.
No problem. No
Yeah,
problem.
no rush.
That'll be more than enough time. Thank you. Yeah, no worries.
No.
Well, happy birthday to her.
Yeah, thank you. I'll pass it along.
Okay, cool. Does anybody, Wig? I saw your hand up, but I wasn't sure if that was just about saying that you had an audio trouble. Would anyone like to ask any questions to start off, or I can? Oh, and before I forget, let me make, for safety, make Len the co-host in case my laptop blows up. There we go, Len, co-host. Okay, cool. All right, well, I'm just curious in general, what is Senator Crichton's sort of the balancing act of like the top, 3 or 4 priorities, and then the other thing that I think is more relevant to us as a committee personally, on a personal level for all of us, is what would you think that the senator would want from organizations like us, and where can we supplement the work of the transportation committee and the MPO and CTPS? Where does his office, where does Senator see our contribution? Where can we be useful, as well as, again, what are the priorities that he's juggling right now?
Yeah, sure. So to answer the first part of the question, I don't like to, in politics, you don't like to rank things, but just some of the things that, I think are very important, alternative modes of transportation, right? Electrification of the commuter rail has been a big priority of the senators. And as you guys probably know, the Management Control Board back, I think it was 2019, had approved that. but right now there's kind of no real action on that. So we've been really pushing hard for that legislatively, just through conversations with the administration and things like that. That's always a big thing. As I'm sure a lot of you have seen in the current legislation is the means tested fares. Obviously, that's a very important step in the right direction, through our eyes. So that's always very important. There's other things like alternative modes of I mentioned alternative modes of transportation, but like ferry service. The senator, we've been pushing Lynn for a long time for ferry service, and we just got a couple amendments and a couple different pieces of legislation that allowed for some funding, hopefully for some pilot programs, which I know doesn't affect the entire state, but a very critical part of the region. It's a whole new world. So we're hoping that kind of we can really show that ferry is a worthwhile transportation method, in the greater Boston area. So I think those are some of the big ones. Of course, there's the oversight hearings just happened. There's always the safety and the kind of the management that's always on the agenda. Just those little things, kind of those more informal things with the working with the administration and different partners. So I think legislatively that's what it is, and then kind of on the other side, just working with the state government. That's that. But to help, it's the same as really any other legislation. Just speak up, write your representatives. Call your representatives. I know you guys have a big voice in the MBTA, so anything you can do to push for what the people want, and kind of anything that makes the transportation system more modern and more equitable and more just making it work for everyone. Just always speak up, always encourage others to speak up. That's kind of the real help, because believe it or not, politicians, they do listen. They take all that stuff into consideration. I know our office does heavily. So it never hurts to, just speak up and rally the troops, as they say.
I can jump in with a follow-up question.
Sure.
How would you characterize the senator's overall position on the MBTA? There seems to be, let me add some context there. There seems to be kind of two camps out there. There's the T is a punching bag, tear the whole thing down, it's irreparably broken, start from scratch group. And then there's the other side that says, it's not all bad news. It's been underinvested. It needs improvements. We need to invest more and fix what's broken as opposed to just tearing it all down. With that kind of idea of a spectrum of one side wants to tear it down and one side wants to double down on investment, how would you characterize the senator's position?
Yeah, as equally as damaging as rankings are, characterizations are just as tough. So I don't want to go, speak for him too much. I just think that he really just wants to make it work. Like whatever it is, the solution, he wants to make it work. There's he's only, he hit the ground running when he started a few months ago. So he's still, we're getting into the flow of things, and he really just wants to see kind of, what can we do to help the T? What can we do legislatively? What can we do, by, more informal conversation, things like that, just things like that. So I don't want to, comment on where he is. I don't really know how he would answer this, so I don't want to speak on his behalf on a spectrum, but he just wants to make it work. I know it's a short answer and a simple answer, but whatever it takes, I think he's willing to, to do it. Sorry, Craig. Sorry, I don't have a more clear answer for you on that.
I'll say that's completely fine. I mean, we're really just sort of feeling out where we want to take things when we have the senator on. But of course,
and I'm sure he's happy to answer that question when he's on too. More directly.
Of course, absolutely. But there's a bigger issue to transportation statewide. Go ahead, Craig. Go ahead.
No, and just the purpose of the question is just to understand how to engage him moving forward, right?
Yeah.
Like, if somebody's already predetermined that the whole thing's broken and we need to tear it down, then I want to learn more about, okay, I want to probe more on what are your suggestions for a new structure? What's tearing it down mean? What is, it's easy to say that, but how do you actually implement that? Versus somebody wants to invest more, then the critical questions become, okay, well, where do you suggest investing? What investments are actually going to make? There's been lots of investments over the years. What investments are actually going to work and make it so we don't all think that the T is broken?
Yeah, I think just as a general point, I think what he's been advocating for a while is that, let's make the team more attractive. Let's make it more reliable. And I think that's what will increase ridership. Let's not do things to make ridership harder or more barriers to ridership. I think he wants to take kind of let's see what we can do to make it more attractive. And part of that is, making it safe, reliable, affordable, all those different types of things. So I think that's kind of where his head has been at for a while, especially after the pandemic, of course, when, ridership's kind of still up in the air.
Len, go ahead. I saw your hand.
No, thank you. I mean, just a few short questions.
Sure.
So do you think it would be better to wait until the next session to meet with the senator? Because we're going to have a new governor where, we're starting a new legislative session, come January,
Yeah, I mean, I think it never hurts to have a meeting even beforehand, just to kind of get a sense of going into the new governor. We don't know, exactly all their policies will be, whether it's him or her. So it's kind of hard to even if it was the first day of the session, we don't really know kind of their exact, feelings towards everything. So maybe, I mean, it doesn't hurt to have a meeting. I know he's a busy guy, but he is happy to meet with you guys on this type of stuff.
The remote helps. I mean, so do you think there's anything that is going to happen in the legislature after the November election? I mean, like last year, there was stuff going on, things happening. Actually, right up until the end of the year. Because as you know, the sessions are 2 years. So we went into, I guess it's like the session's 2 years. Or what do they call it? Is it a session? Yes. And so,
the whole legislative session is 2 years, but
2 years,
2 1-year sessions within the
right. And so and then you get to the end of a year and some things have just expired.
So we're at the end of the second year, so all the legislation is going to expire at the end of this week.
Right.
The end, by August 1st. So
right.
It's going to be a clean slate come next year.
So will we be dealing with anything after the election, but before the end of the session, you think?
What do you mean legislatively, like voting on things?
Yeah.
I really don't know.
Okay.
Unless it's something urgent. It could be, but it's hard to, because with COVID really, I think kind of threw things off. They were doing bills all kind of throughout COVID. So, who knows what this kind of quote unquote new normal still is for the legislation, but typically, it's within the legislative calendar year.
Right.
After bills are filed.
Yeah. So I was trying to watch a lot of the bills, as they move through the session, and I know that the joint committee was a little hobbled for a while because it didn't have a Senate chair, so we weren't getting the readout, for lack of a better word, on the bills, like whether they were recommended with favorable action or whatever. So I saw that Senator Crichton had a lot of interesting bills. I liked a lot of his. And it wasn't clear to me what happened with most of them. Now it's been a while since I've looked, but maybe you could give like a little review on what happened to some of the bills that he proposed and where he wants to go based on those, whether they move forward and get turned into law either on their own or part of other bills this session, or whether they need to be carried forward.
Yeah, I wasn't with him at the beginning of the session, so I really don't know what. Sorry, once again. I don't know what where everything is. It's just kind of all over the place. But I'd happy to get back to you on kind of and send you something over with kind of where everything is. Have our LD kind of look at it. That's a great question. We should probably do that ourselves and kind of see where everything is. But generally there's things that can be refiled. There's next session that didn't get through. There's also ways, as I'm sure you guys all know, that if something doesn't make it into we've gotten some things in amendments as part of other bills, different policy sections in other bills and the budget and things of that nature. Obviously, our big legislative victory in terms of transportation was the driver's license bill. I mean, I consider it a transportation bill. I almost do, but the driver's license bills for immigrants without status obviously passed. And so that's kind of our big transportation legislative victory on that end. But I'll come up with something and send it to you, Len.
Well, no, I'm going to save you a little work. Because no, you don't have to come back to anything. But before the senator's visit, with us. I mean, maybe he can kind of lay out to us, his overall strategy with respect to the bills that he proposed, and then based on what succeeds, then give us a sense of what his strategy will be for the next session and how transit fits into that strategy. Because that'll give us some insights as to what we should maybe focus on and maybe what we could work with him on with respect to the MBTA. So that's it.
No, I appreciate it, Lynn, and I appreciate your willingness to work with us.
Yeah, sure. Representative Sharma Garberly from Arlington is part of the the MBTA caucus, so he works.
Awesome.
That's a lot. So thank you.
Awesome. No, thank you, Lynn.
We got you back online, and by complete coincidence, my camera has just died just as Wig was coming online with video. Wig, can you hear us? And let me try to ask to unmute again in case you want to say something. You may have to hit something on your phone, Wig. I think it's something like *7 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly.
That work?
That worked. Yeah, loud and clear. No, while you're asking something, Wig, I will try to get my camera working again.
Yeah, sorry, Stefan, for burdening you with this stuff.
Don't worry about it. It's okay. Glitches happen.
But I've heard the whole meeting so far, so really appreciate that.
You want to jump in, ask, comment, that kind of thing? If not, I can just ask a couple more things.
Yeah, the question I would have, which a couple of you would probably anticipate, is about Lower Mystic and all the projects that are coming or proposed, from the casino to the new craft stadium for soccer and a lot of other things on the north side of the Mystic. There's very, that's not capacity that can be met with bus rapid transit. So I guess I would want to know what the legislators in that area from Lower Mystic to Lynn are thinking of for transit capacity. It's not going to be buses or BRT. So what's it going to be?
I mean, honestly, that's just a little out of my my scope. I'm not too overly familiar with the that situation. But I will definitely pass along your concerns to the senator, and we can talk more about it when he's here. Okay, and just so you know, and I won't go into it, but others here have been bored by my stuff on this. You could use the Grand Junction, which goes through there, to connect all those areas and connect them back to Kendall and Longwood, and tie it into a blue line urban ring. That would connect everybody from Lynn and those kind of north of Lower Mystic communities, which I don't represent, into the whole Boston and Cambridge economy. Gotcha. I'm just writing down, taking some notes here.
Yeah, and I know this is your area of expertise, but just to echo what's being said there, I think we're really we're passionate about long-term solutions as opposed to just Band-Aids. And it what seems to have gotten passed over the last, maybe passed is the wrong word, but the easier thing to implement is to say, we create we're gonna turn a bus silver and call it a silver line. We'll do some light infrastructure work to add some kind of fancy stations for the buses and call that rapid transit. And that's part of the solution. But I guess, as you have the ear of the senator, I would encourage him to think big in terms of really beyond just calling buses rapid transit, but actually investing in the subway line more. I don't think it's taken way too long, but I don't think anybody's going to be unhappy that we have the Green Line extension. And I think there's plenty of people who wish that there are other extensions out there as well. And I know we have to balance that against fixing the system that isn't working today. But any project's going to take 20 years. We need to invest now while we have somebody who cares for future generations.
Yeah, no, I hear you loud and clear, Craig. And I don't know if anyone knows much about Lynn here, but we've been saying we're going to get the blue line to Lynn for many years. But now we've kind of shifted our focus, which is relevant to what you're saying, to kind of this electrification of the commuter rail and making that more rapid transit oriented, as opposed to kind of this commuter mindset, a more regional rail type things you can get around, in coordination with the buses, of course. But I totally hear your point on the Band-Aid and kind of the long-term solutions, and I appreciate that.
Well,
and I will pass
Yeah,
it.
just, if I could just pile on for 1 second more, and I super appreciate Craig's comment. The old urban ring analysis, phase 3, which was rail based, was basically electrified subway, not necessarily blue ring as proposed then, but it's the same idea, just didn't include Lynn. But that was penciled out at 300,000 trips a day and 150,000 trips of extra capacity on the other subways and light rail. And you would have to take, that equals many times the total commuter rail network, many times the total commuter rail network, and a very large chunk of the total bus network. Okay, so it is that kind of long-term solution, and it is long-term. I'm from Somerville. I'm delighted with the Green Line. We don't need it fancier than it is. It's going to be fine connected with walk bike, but good long-term solutions are worth it. I'll stop. Thanks.
Hear you loud and clear, Wake.
Now, I'm actually curious. We don't have to go into too much detail on this, but since obviously the Transportation Committee covers all forms of transit, we are a transit-focused, public transit-focused organization overseeing MBTA. Clearly, Senator Crichton has a lot of focus on public transit, but MassDOT, Mass Highway, and the other transportation elements within the Commonwealth are still the jurisdiction of the Transportation Committee. What do you think, Sean? What would you say is like the percentage of that, like the current focus on non-MBTA, non-RTAs, non-public transit that the committee is doing? I mean, is if there's, for example, if there's aspects of road that where the senator is thinking, long-term about autonomous vehicles and, dedicating lanes to, 10-year out autonomous vehicle fleets that could augment public transit, Mass Highway has a role in this as well.
Yeah, so your question basically is like, how much is non-MBTA stuff? Is that kind of
I know. Just what's the senator's involvement? Where does interest lie in the non-MBTA kind?
Yeah, there's quite a bit. I don't think I think it's kind of talked about relative to MBTA because of everything that's going on. But there's quite a bit. There's a lot on electric vehicles, as you mentioned, electric vehicle infrastructure to make sure that that these things are able to go and without worry. There's a lot of things on e-bikes. E-bikes are really popular in different, just because they're so unregulated at this point. Shared paths, that's something that's very, hot in the streets. So to say, things like congestion pricing and regional equity, the East-West rail things, I guess that's, but regional equity in terms of the roads as well as, some say, certain areas are much more tolled or much more taxed than other areas. So there's quite a bit of other stuff that's not, MBTA focused or, public transit focused. So yeah, it's quite a bit.
I guess it's not so much a question for today as, just something to relay to the senator is, how he sees our interaction with the MPOs and legislators and other advocacy groups. We used to in the past we had seats on our committee from Sierra Club, from the T Riders Union, from 8 different advocacy organizations.
Wow.
Some of the names are escaping me right now.
Yeah.
So as the co-chair of this committee, I'm always wanting to make sure that we are at least aware of where, how the legislature views our role, the advocacy roles, all the interested parties, to make sure that we're all, puzzle pieces fitting in nicely together.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes total sense. And yeah, we work closely with some advocacy groups, obviously, many advocacy groups, obviously, many different, just on a wide variety of topics, because they're kind of the experts on all of those, a lot of different coalitions and things like that. So T4MA and organizations like that, Transit Matters, organizations like that. So do those ring a bell?
Oh yeah, yep, absolutely. Those are the names I couldn't remember. Yeah, Transit Matters in particular.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're fantastic. They do a lot of great work. So we're always looking to partner with different advocates.
Yeah, we've had both Aloisi and Aolo have joined us at various committee meetings in the past. So yeah, we're connected to them as say comrades in arms, I guess you could say. Karen, I haven't heard any questions, or Hayne, also, is there anything that you want to either ask or mention? Again, this is all primarily in preparation for the senator himself joining us September, October, November, once things get back to a normal after the vacation season.
The one thing that I thought of but isn't relevant to when the senator comes is the circumferential plan had a fatal flaw, in that through Roxbury it stopped at the orange line. So you had to get off the train or bus or whatever it was and walk across the station and on to the next thing of the urban ring. So I always hated that thing for that reason.
Thanks, Karen. Hayne, anything from the CTPS point of view that you'd want to either be able to ask the senator, or just even ask Sean about, the senator's office? And if you don't, that's quite all right.
I don't have a question that particularly comes off my head right now.
No problem at all. We're coming up on quarter of, and I don't want to hold you, Sean, if we may have everything covered. It sounds like we've got a lot that we could discuss with the senator. So between now and when we invite in the fall, I'll run through maybe a specific set of points with Wig and Len as the executive committee of this group. Oh, and Craig also as one of the co-chairs of the subcommittee. We definitely want to make sure that we are on focus and respectful of the senator's time, just like we want to be respectful of your time tonight, so you can get out to join your wife.
And if you need I'm sorry, I'm kind of general on a lot of these things. I just, it's a tough time speaking on his behalf. If you ever want to apologize, if you want to run anything by me beforehand, I'm more than happy to kind of, help work it out with you too. If you have any questions, if you think they're too broad, too general, or whatever it is, or you want to kind of get a focus, I'm happy to talk about what's kind of best and what's the best use of time.
That makes sense, because it's not like it's an interview. We're not like a newspaper.
Yeah.
So we're happy getting your questions ahead of time so that you can best prepare. So yeah.
And as you can tell from this, I mean, ultimately we're all about having a discussion, and just it's information sharing. We're as an oversight organization, we tend to sort of inherently be behind the curve. We're not the MBTA board. When the FMCB was still in place, they were setting the direction. The board sets the direction. We are looking mostly after the fact to see, not entirely, but as such, we want to make sure that we can be in on any planning, any legislative aspects where we can be useful.
Yeah, no, really appreciate that and all the work that you do. I know it can be a grind at times, especially, so I really appreciate that.
Anyone else? Any last words? Otherwise, we can let Sean go back to his real life.
This is my real life these days.
Oh man. Okay. Thank you, Sean, very much. Great to meet you. Sorry it's not in person, but maybe someday we'll be back to.
We can dream. We can dream.
Yeah.
We can just trek over to the State House.
Yeah. Well, you can always come by the State House. We're always there. So
That's true. That field trip. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yes. All right.
Thank you very much,
everyone
Sean. We
It
will
was
keep in
really- it was a
touch.
Pleasure.
Okay.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Yep. Thank you. Bye. All right. We're not too bad on being on our schedule on time. Not too bad at all. Sorry, Len. Did you want to lead off to lead this discussion of the UPWP?
Sure.
Would you like me to pull this up?
Sure.
Okay. Tell me how you'd like me to drive on this, if at all. I don't have to.
You can go to, I'm scrolling down to the page I want you to go to on my computer. It's going to be in the table of contents. Roman numeral X1414.
Oh, and while you're doing that, let me mention for Karen, we are pulling up a PDF document of the Unified Planning Work Program for 2023. And Len, what page was that again?
Page 14, Roman numeral 14, X1.
Got it.
XIV.
Oh, XIV, is that 14 in the, is that the PDF 14?
No, it's on. It's on the page itself. So regardless of what the PDF viewer says, being as in like 14 of 258, this is marked XIV. You know.
Okay. I'll try to find that.
Yeah. I mean, I have yet to see a PDF viewer that shows numbers.
Understood.
Show Roman numbers, you know.
Actually, I can probably search for XIV. There's XIV,
There you go.
but that's okay. Is that
That's
what you
I
wanted?
want. Yeah.
Oh.
So you can,
Alrighty.
blow
That
it
was
up
easier than I
and-
thought.
So blow it up so that we can see chapter 4, planning studies and technical analysis. All right. Okay.
Just
So-
just the table of contents.
Just a table of contents. I mean, and
All
then
right,
later
you
on,
got it.
people want to go and see more about the descriptions of studies. We can, but these are essentially the studies that the UPWP, the Unified Planning Work Program, I'm just going to call it the UPWP subcommittee, worked on to select and to recommend that the MPO fund for this coming fiscal year. And so there's the update of the bicycle pedestrian count database. Apparently hasn't been updated since 2019. And I think the reason for that was due to COVID. And essentially, municipalities really count on CTPS updating this database so that they can use it with respect to recommending projects in their respective municipalities. The one that I am particularly excited about is the flexible fixed route bus service. And so this is to look at what would go into allowing buses to drop off and pick up people in between stops on routes that are low volume, or on routes that maybe have a higher volume but doing off-peak hours. And so yeah, then there's a transit modernization program, which is kind of ongoing, and there's a smorgasbord of things that are really just designed to increase services, and options on the T. I'm not doing a good job of describing that one. I can maybe scroll down to 413 later on after I covered the next three. There's the lab and municipal parking study. And this is to understand what kind of parking needs are needed in lab areas. And the focus on this one isn't so much on places like Kendall Square, which is more transit based, although that will be part of the study, but places like Watertown, which has a lot of labs coming online, and it has some T service, mainly bus service, and then there is the learning from roadway pricing experiences. This is kind of the MPO's foray into congestion pricing. We've been trying to get a congestion pricing study done for a while, but MassDOT has been very resistant to doing it, mainly because MassDOT has felt that this is something the state is going to look at, or has been looking at in let's say less direct ways, because the sense is that it would be hard to get any congestion pricing done. So for the amount of money that would take to do a real congestion pricing study, that money would be better spent on something that is more likely to happen. So that's been pretty much the rationale for not doing a full-fledged congestion pricing study. But this is a way of getting information about what would go into congestion pricing if we were to do it. So it's not so much a study as much as it is, these are items of keen interest if you decide to go down that route. And the last one is sustainability and decarbonization in the freight and logistics sector. And so this was it's more freight based, but I know people don't really think of freight as sexy, but freight is essential.
I think of it. I think of it that way.
Okay, well,
but I'm weird. I know.
No, it's fine. It's fine. And so, but it's essential. And I think anytime we really talk about improving, doing anything to roadways, and we really need to think about freight, and so how to deal with freight in a sustainable way. Almost by it's a given that sustainable is important, but sometimes you can have the tension between bike lanes and what do you do with freight. And so we kind of need to work on figuring that out. How do we make the transportation network sustainable for all modes, with in this one emphasis on freight. And my understanding is that MAPC is chipping in some monies for this. So those are the studies. They amount to about $320,000 total. Even though the MPO has gotten more money as a result of the infrastructure law, the discrete studies didn't get more money from. It was kind of level funded from last year, and the municipal parking study cost about $80K. So we didn't have a whole lot of money to go around, and some of the studies were a little bit pricey. So we're getting 6 studies. And so my inclination would be to chime in on the flexible fixed route bus service. So if my ask to the group would be to write the letter and send it to you all, but you'll know what is going out. There won't really be any collaboration on it, and it would just be commenting on the flexible route, supporting that idea. That's it.
We go ahead after you.
Yeah, so 3 things. I might hop off to tonight's bus network redesign in a couple minutes. But 2 things. Picking up on what Len ended with, freight uses as much energy as personal transportation. It's a really big deal, and turning it into a more sustainable system. For example, if you had electric freight train backbones, a few northwest and maybe three or four east, a few north south and maybe 3 or 4 east west, and they were electrified, and you just threw the containers on and off. That would be just massive increase in sustainability. So freight is, Len is absolutely right. Second thing, I'm not as buried in BNR as bus network redesign details as I should be. I think there's going to be several years in evolution, but what has been striking me lately, I have some opinions locally, but that doesn't do much for regional, oversight and thinking. There must be a really rich data set that the key people working on bus network redesign have been using, and it would be really interesting to liberate that data set for people to look at origin and destination, or age of riders, or socioeconomic conditions. There will be data on all of that in what they have used to start to think systemically about the bus network redesign. And whether it's studies coming out of CTPS or whether it's data that's made available to transport geeks who could think about it, I think it would be really interesting to use that data when it's relatively current, because I think there's an awful lot that could be gotten out of it in addition to what's happening formally. Those two things. Thank you.
Sure. Well, Wig's comment, he makes me a little inclined to write a broader letter, be supporting that one too, because that one ties into transit also. You could say that bicycle pedestrian counts fit into transit, and certainly active transportation, which can fit into transit. And also I feel that we should view transit more as a way of just getting fewer people in single occupancy vehicles, and so if by making transit more accessible to bikes, we just make people want to ride bikes more, and even if as a result of them riding bikes more, they ride transit less, that's okay. But at least they are out of a gas-powered SUV. Now there may come a time, when we're not too much worried about gas-powered SUVs, meaning we have vehicles on the road that are behaving more like transit, then that's good. Maybe that more bikes is an intermediary to that step. So I when commenting on the transit modernization program, I was kind of getting a little inarticulate about what it could include. And so I'm reading now from page 4-13. Examples of projects that could be funded through the investment program are accessibility improvements, station modernization improvements, parking improvements in stations, infrastructure state of good repair projects, fleet modernization, and bus maintenance facilities upgrades. So yeah. It's yeah. I guess what I'm hemming and hawing over here is that this is a project that is more support, than it is research. And so it wasn't one that I was in favor of as opposed as a study, but it was explained to me that this is the pot of money that provides for this. And so it wasn't like we could chuck this over to the MPO and say, funded from this monies that you use to fund highway projects or other projects, some of which are transit, But I guess my feelings were that, well, it should really come out of the research end of the UPWP. But the deal is that one of the reasons that we have so little money left for these kind of discrete studies is that there are monies that are devoted to studies that are continual, being year after year. I mean, so we have these corridor projects that are selected based on the priorities in the long range transportation plan, and those are pretty expensive. And instead of saying, well, the UPWP committee is going to try to have these projects put in the budget each year, it's like, no, it's carved out. And so monies are going to be spent on the corridor studies every year. It's just a matter of which one. And the staff, really determines which study, which area it's going to be, and we essentially accept it. Now we could have more of a discussion with Wixia, with the staff as to which corridor is selected. They haven't said no, but we haven't seen any compelling reason to have that conversation. So my point is that we understood ultimately why the transit modernization program was put into the planning studies. And I'll just add to that, that even if you authorize me to write the letter, it's probably just a 50-50 chance it's going to get written, and for two reasons. One is the time available, and two is that the advisory council is going to chime in on this meeting, and it has a 3C committee that its purpose is to comment on the draft of the TIP and the draft of the UPWPs. We did the draft of the TIP a while ago, our comments on the draft TIP a couple of months ago. And my sense is that the folks at the advisory council aren't too happy with the UPWP. So I'm happy to see that they are taking, that they feel comfortable taking that posture, especially given my role in helping to put this together. And so when I meet with them, I'm going to ask them, it's like, I can just be in this meeting with you all and keep quiet. And then you can ask me questions about how we got to where we want, because I don't want you to feel any pressure to hold back on how you feel, because I was a part of crafting this. And they're not the sort of people that would be shy. So I think they don't have a problem with that. It's really a matter of whether I will stay at the meeting, and so I feel a little bit uneasy about the ROC putting in a strong letter of support for it, because it may seem like I'm trying to undermine what is probably going to be a critical letter coming out of the advisory council. So that's where I am on that. And so I guess I would feel more strongly about the ROC putting in a letter if it was being driven by other people in the ROC, in which case, much like I imagine me presenting, and I use presenting in quotes because it's not like at a board meeting, I get to read the advisory council's draft comment letter. But I guess my point is that I'll make it clear to my colleagues on the UPWP committee, as well as the MPO board, that I am speaking for my colleagues on the advisory council, and so they have a more critical view of the UPWP than I do, but I represent them, and so I have to represent how they feel about it, and I have to voice their feelings about it as strongly as they do. So my point is that if someone on the ROC wanted to take a strong position with respect to these studies, then I could say, well, I'm representing the ROC, and I guess I'm not even representing the ROC, because it's not like the ROC is putting this letter forth to the advisory council. The ROC is really putting this letter forth to the MPO. I represent the Rock on the advisory council. At the board meetings, I can just say, well, this has come through the Rock, but members there felt strongly about it, and that's why this letter is here. So I'm not really arguing against myself. I'm just representing two bodies that have different feelings about the study, or at least different feelings about different aspects of the study. But you see, I've been talking for a while because, well, it's only three of us here at this point, but also it's just drive home the point being that I'm pretty much the mover of the letter here. And for those reasons, I probably won't do it because I can voice my opinion about these things. I have already, and so that's where we are. But at least you have maybe a better sense of what's going on with the UPWP this year.
Karen did call back in, so I didn't notice. So Karen, let me make sure that you're able to talk. And Karen, I wasn't paying attention to when you had disconnected and came back in. Did you want to ask Len anything specific about this planning study for the UPWP planning studies and analyses, or did you miss a lot of it? We can redo a recap at the subcommittee if you want. It's totally up to you, Karen. I'll just say, Len, I am tempted to try authoring a letter, but I feel like I would have to have additional conversation with you about the scope and the goal.
Yeah,
but I can see myself doing that.
Yeah, well, yeah, and well, if you have questions, then you can ask me questions, and maybe it'll just be easier to talk about it, and maybe what I would suggest that you do is that you just submit the letter as in Stefan Munch, who happens to be a member of the Rock, but it's not on behalf of the Rock. And with that, then we don't have to worry about me coming back to the group. And one of the reasons I told the group that I'd just be writing a letter without coming back to them is that we're not really supposed to deliberate on a thing as a letter, in between meetings with anything that approaches a quorum. So it'd be like just authorize me to write the letter, and then I'll write it. You'll know what went out, and the worst that would happen is that you go, well, this is a bad letter. And then you send a letter to the MPO going, well, that letter that Len sent, well, here's our addition to it. It's after the deadline, but at least
I understand
how we feel.
That's
so
fine.
Just do it on your own, and I'll be happy to help you with it. And then I'm going to talk to some folks, who are interested in regional transit. I think Alexis Walls, did she come talk with us about the Regional Transportation Advisory Council or committee? It's a committee bill that they were trying to get passed. I know it got favorable report out. I don't know really what happened to it. And then there was a member of the select board in Wellesley who is interested in regional transit. So I'm going to let them know that that 20K study on flexible fixed route bus service is in there. And then they can weigh in on how they want. They can, just let them know so that if they want to weigh in, they can.
I will throw in one I think simple question about that. Is the flexible fixed route bus service just the scope of the MBTA, since we're talking about the Boston MPO, or are there any RTAs that fall under the Boston MPO that are also in scope for this flexible fixed route?
Yeah, there are Boston RTAs there are RTAs in the Boston area that are in scope for this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are those primarily South Shore, like Quincy Braintree, or is there an RTA that's north of Boston that I'm forgetting?
Well, I think
or is there one that's west? I'm all of a sudden blanking on RTAs within the Boston MPO region.
So there's CADA and there's MW RTA, Metro West RTA. And CADA is Cape Ann Transit. So.
Oh, okay. I know about CADA up in Cape Ann. I completely forgot that that's within Boston MPO scope.
Yeah.
What's the cutoff of the Boston MPO territory? Is it basically like 495 belt and west is a different MPO region?
If you
Just generally, if it, I can
no
look it
problem.
up. It's not a big deal right now.
No problem. If you scroll to the top of the document, I don't know if our PDF viewers, they're similar enough. I mean that it's close enough. You go to like page 5. There you go.
There we go. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I have to admit that is more broad than I remembered.
Yeah, no, we're pretty big.
Okay, thank you for that.
97 communities, municipalities, and I'll just throw in a little bit of a side. Maybe you could just call this like old business, new business report from other committees. So the folks from Florida, Southeast Florida, so it was Miami, Dade, Broward. They have a regional MPO down there. Well, they have MPOs, and then 3 of them have come together. So the Miami County, the Dade County, and the Broward County MPOs have come together, and I think they have like 35 communities. I don't know if they're cities, whatever they're called down there. But they behave more like cities than our towns do here. And so we were impressed that they brought 3 MPOs together. But then when you take into account that there are 35 municipalities in them, they were really impressed that we have 97 in ours, and I don't think they fully appreciate how independent our towns behave. And so it's like towns are something else, because they have their town meetings, and then you have those select people, in those towns, so yeah, wrangling together, 97 towns, municipalities, to do anything, it's quite the feat, Yeah.
Hayne, you seem to have a degree of recognition. Is this a recognition of the Florida region that Glenn was just mentioning?
No, I heard a lot of the hype about the MPO exchange.
Oh, I see.
Coming from the executive director and also my supervisor, who was mostly organizing the event. So yeah, I wished I were there in person. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I think it could have been done remotely. I had to attend half of it, or a third of it remotely, because I just needed to get back to my workplace. I honestly didn't see any element of it that couldn't have been done remotely. And I think we could do. Well, they did the tour. So the tour afterwards of the Silver Line, they did do that in person. So to the extent that they came to Boston to take a ride on our Silver Line, then I really hope it was worth it. But as far as the information that we got and that we gave, I think could have been done remotely. Certainly, I got to see their presentation remotely, and I got a lot out of it. I had half the time in the room when I got to see our presentation, and so I can't really say how they received our information remotely versus in person, because I'm really familiar with our material. But given what they showed, I can't imagine the room giving me more than I saw from my computer, other than the fact that the camera didn't have like the best setup for video. So I couldn't really see people in the room that fine, but I could hear just fine. That's really all that matters. I could see the presentation that fine. I could hear fine. And so my point in this is that I thought the information exchange was very good. And I would hope that we would go for more of these information exchanges remotely, than having fewer of them in person. But yeah, it was interesting to see the similarities in the challenges that we face, mostly with people not wanting things changed, and so they have people have problems with density, and so if you say we'll build transit and these aren't exact quotes, but it was close enough. That if you are going to bring in more transit and I'll create more transit-oriented development, then there are people who are like, well, I don't want my area more dense, and so it isn't simply a Northeast issue, so yeah, and there are other things that it was like, oh yeah, so it's the same down there as it is up here, and I think to a large extent these are urban type of similarities, versus non-urban, but that's almost a definition, right? Because you have to have a certain number of people before you have an MPO. I'm sorry, what, Stephanie, you were trying to say something?
I was just wondering what was the distribution? Was this representation from 50 states or from just some geographic regions in the country?
At the meeting, it was just from Florida. It was just from Southeast
just Florida.
Yeah, just the 3 counties. Yeah, so we're having a little information exchange with them.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I got the impression mistakenly that this was MPOs from throughout the country, not just from Florida. But okay, now I understand.
Yeah,
I got it.
Right. So yeah, I think this is the first one that Tegan put together. And I don't know if it's the first like out of state MPO info exchange that we've had. And so it's good. It's good. I'm certainly not. It was nice to see the folks. I will say. I work at MGH. So I'm masked. Pretty much all the time. I'm at work now, but I'm in a bay. That has no one around me. And the back row, and hardly anyone comes within 20 feet of me. So I'm okay with the mask off. But yeah, we're still in the pandemic. And so
agreed.
Yeah.
Without regard to the in-person aspect of it, I'm just curious. Do you have a sense that anyone in the country from MPO type organizations have a broad meeting like this exchange that you did that just happened, or is this something that is not very typical throughout the country?
Yeah, I don't know to what extent these MPO exchanges are done. There is an American, there's an association of MPOs, and so they might have a sense of how often these things are done. They may even be encouraging MPOs to do them. It would be a rational thing to suggest, to learn from each other's experiences. Certainly, I think you can go, and maybe I can find it. There's a video of what they are doing in Florida. It's really pretty impressive. It's a well done video for one, but to the extent the video reflects what they're doing, it's really impressive. And I don't know to what extent it's a bias on my part, but I found them surprisingly progressive. But then it is Broward, Miami, Dade. And unfortunately, I am kind of coloring Florida with the color that generally comes out of the presidential election, and thinking, they're not terribly progressive down there, but no, they are. And they are as in a lot of ways they are as progressive as we are, and definitely as smart, if not smarter.
Well, the term self-selecting comes to mind, but I don't know if that's entirely accurate, and I don't want to be using that term in a derogatory fashion. But is it safe to say that there is an element of that for any participant in an MPO organization like ours, over the Rider Oversight Committee?
Yeah, right. I hear what you mean. No, I know exactly what you mean, because as I tell people, it's like so like the Boston MPO isn't very diverse. Certainly not racially. But it's not for lack of trying. It's more like it's just that there just aren't that many people of color, I think, who or have spent enough time in transportation feel comfortable operating on that level. I have suggested that we create MPO University here, where we we kind of teach people, and we advertise for applicants, and then select, for the diversity that we want. Essentially create a pipeline, that could provide people who could be on the MPO board, maybe eventually employees at CTPS, or maybe work at MAPC, the planning, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, and so that could be a way for us to get diversity. But my point is that it's, the people here though really care about inequity. It's not just lip service here. They really, everyone cares about making our transportation transit system more equitable. Yeah, I definitely think that's the case down in Florida too. And once again, like I said, those are pretty blue counties, and so it would be surprising, and because it is Florida, they have a lot more diversity there, so it's a pretty mixed group that came up, but yeah, and one had a definitely Florida vibe, in the way that he dressed, and in the video there was even a still of him in like a lime green suit, and I forget what color the shirt was, but it almost doesn't matter what color the shirt is. Whether it's just a white shirt, or a pink shirt, a blue shirt, or polka dot shirt, the lime green suit was just something else. So it's like, it's kind of nice to see that kind of personality, and backs it up with a presentation. Well, backs it up with knowledge. So like, and Stefan probably as well as I do. It's like in the science world, you don't really care what someone's wearing, because you really care about what they say, what the presentation is like. So essentially, you close your eyes. You aren't really even looking at them. You're listening to them and then looking at what they present. And so yeah.
But there, even in science and technology communities, though, having a charismatic personality and involving a very compelling personality in your presentation does tend to engage your audience more strongly.
Yeah. Well, but charismatic, not in the kind of persuasive aspect, though, right? You just want someone that can put together words in a way that makes you want to listen, but not in a way that tries to like convince you, persuade you that I'm right. Beguile you. Maybe that's not the right word for it. But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll just say, go ahead.
No, after you.
No, it's going to be a little. This will be a little more about me, and that's not the point at this point. So,
okay, that's up to you.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
I was simply going to mention that it's 6:25. My clock just ticked over to 6:25, and I feel like we should put the subcommittee reports on hold, probably until we reconvene in September. Payne, by the way, we're almost certainly going to have a committee vacation in the month of August. As you can see from tonight, a lot of people are on vacation now or tied up with other things that involve summertime activities. So I think we'll confirm this by email and put it out to the mailing list for this committee, but most likely no meeting in 4 weeks, and we'll reconvene again in 8 weeks with discussions over email as necessary. And of course, the subcommittees will meet in the first week and second week and third week of September.
So yeah, and maybe we should have our executive committee meeting in August anyway. So maybe we can try and decide on whether we invite Senator Creighton. Creighton, is it Creighton? Creighton. Right?
Yep. Creighton.
To the September meeting. So I kind of think the October meeting might be a little tight. because that's like means our meeting's the fourth Monday of the month, and the election is the like first Tuesday after the first Monday, and or something like that.
That's a very astute observation. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess he's not contested, right? So he's not really running, right? Do we know? Do you know?
He's my senator. I ought to know that, but I don't remember right now.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, it's like me. I think mine doesn't have the contestant, and I'm pretty sure she's not being primary, but you don't really know in the general, So, but anyways, so it's really going to be up to his community. Let's aim for September, and then fall back to October. I was really surprised that his communications director said, "Let's meet before the election," because I was really convinced that he was going to say, "Let's wait until next session." But they want to meet with us sooner. That's fine. But the point is that we can plan out what we're going to ask him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
And then maybe we can bring some other people in. But maybe we'll just have him by himself. And then if he wants to come back, we can bring in other people. Because other people I'm thinking it was like Sean Garberly, my rep.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe they will want to have us over at the State House. Yeah.
I'd be all in favor of that.
Yeah.
I would be. No, I am all in favor of that if they were to propose that.
Okay.
I should be more emphatic instead of just saying I will be feeling this way.
Well, I think maybe you were using proper English, based on what I'd said, but I get all confused, in those types of tenses.
Yeah. My current motto when it comes to poor grammar is to what is this world coming?
So, well, let's give Haynes some of her time back.
I agree.
Yeah.
And sorry, finish with that.
No, I was going to ask if she had anything she wanted to say or ask or comment on. Or you don't have to. Just an invitation.
No, there's no requirement. We're always glad to have you here, Hank.
This is my second time sitting in this meeting, and
Oh, is that all? I thought this was third or fourth time. Okay. Well, thank you very much. And I personally, when we wrap this up, which it sounds like we're ready to do, I'm going to switch over to the bus network redesign public meeting because I believe this is the final. I don't believe this is actually a public meeting. I believe this evening's is the public hearing as the final public engagement of the bus network redesign project.
Yeah,
I don't fault Wig for jumping off at 6 to join that.
That's a good point. I guess I'm kind of interested in seeing who's there. I was saying to myself, I'm going to do some Python programming. I might chime in for a little bit, but look in to see who's there. Get a sense of the tone in the comments. And I think they're recorded, but I don't know if they're really posted anywhere. But anyways, all right. Well, maybe
they are definitely recorded. Right. And for what it's worth, here it is. And unless either of you object, I think we can wrap it up. Karen has disconnected, and I don't see any comments on the YouTube feed at the moment. So,
all right. Well, have a good night.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thanks, Hayne.
Bye-bye, Hayne. Bye-bye.
Stay cool. Have a good rest of the summer. See you later. And good night, everybody watching. See you next time.